Hello, everyone. Hello, Kevin, Andy, Matthew, Michelle, Brian, Jens, Scott, Cam, and Julia. Good to see you online. And hello, Bhante. Thanks for sharing Dharma with us again today. So we will be doing a guided meditation as usual for 30 minutes. And then after that, Bhante will be sharing some words of Dhamma on the subject of emptiness. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the live chat and he'll answer them later. And good to see also Adriana and Melinda and Reed. Very good to see you all. So I think we can start. And Yudi says, hello, beautiful teachers. So, all right, we can start meditating and then have a bit of Dharma discussion later.
So, getting in your meditation posture, really making sure to take a minute or two at the start of each meditation period to make sure that posture is very stable and solid. Making sure especially that there's no nerves being pinched in your backside, in your hips, in your thighs, or anywhere in that area. Making sure that shoulders are back and relaxed. So taking the time to make sure that your posture is very well arranged at the beginning of the meditation period makes it easier to keep still for the whole time and supports clarity of mind. Relaxing your forehead, your eyes, your cheeks, your mouth, and letting a soft smile come to your lips. And take a few deep breaths. With each breath, letting the body relax completely. So letting each breath be like a wind sweeping away the dust from the mind, sweeping away all the unnecessary thoughts, sweeping away all the emotional residue of the day. So each breath sweeping clean the mind. And once that's done, you can let the mind relax and rest. You can let the breath return to its natural rhythm. Bring up a little smile on your face. Bring to mind your favorite person in the whole world. It doesn't matter whether it's human or non-human. whether they're alive or passed away, whether they're nearby or far away. Bring to mind your favorite person, someone who you care about very strongly, and start wishing for them to be happy. So you might repeat in your mind, may they be happy, may they be healthy, may they be safe. Just gently, softly, lovingly repeating these words, bringing up the feeling of benevolence, the feeling of well-wishing, feeling of caring, bringing that up in the mind. As you repeat, may they be happy, may they be healthy, may they be safe. So repeating these words wholeheartedly, devoting the entire strength of your mind, all of your willpower, determination, and resolution, pouring it into these words, filling your heart with the meaning of these words. May they be happy. May they be healthy. May they be safe. Keep building up the intensity of that feeling, the feeling of loving kindness, feeling of open-hearted friendliness, the feeling of infinite love. May they be happy. May they be healthy. May they be safe. And extend that bright, loving attitude to all the people that you care about, all your friends, all your beloved relatives, wishing equally for all of them. May they be happy. May they be healthy. May they be safe. May they be happy. May they be healthy. May they be safe. Keeping the body relaxed, gentle smile, bright, warm, happy feeling of loving kindness. Focusing on that radiant, soothing light of loving kindness. Wishing well for all the people you care about, and also all of the medical workers, the nurses, the doctors, the technicians, all the medical workers who are helping people out in this time of difficulty. So wishing for all those we care about and for all of the medical workers. May they be happy. May they be healthy. May they be safe. May they be happy. May they be healthy. May they be safe. Keep magnifying that loving feeling, that caring attitude, that benevolent radiance, and allowing it to include all the people in the world who are sick. So wishing for those you care about and for all the medical workers and for all those who are sick. May they be happy. May they be healthy. May they be safe. May they be happy. May they be healthy. May they be safe. Keep returning to the loving kindness. Keep focusing on brightening the feeling of loving kindness, intensifying the feeling of goodwill. Keep wishing, may they be happy, may they be healthy, may they be safe. Your loved ones, medical workers, and all who are sick, may they be happy, may they be healthy, may they be safe. Focus on that bright, radiant, loving kindness and open it up to the whole world without any exceptions, without any limits, without any conditions. Wishing for everyone in the whole world, whether human or non-human, whether near or far, all sentient beings on this planet and other planets, and all the space in between, throughout the whole universe, throughout every other universe. So pervading and embracing the entire multiverse without any limitations or exceptions. Wishing, may everyone be happy, may everyone be healthy, may everyone be safe, including yourself. May everyone be happy, may everyone be healthy, may everyone be safe. No limits, no boundaries, no conditions. May everyone be happy. May everyone be healthy. May everyone be safe. You can relax, shift your posture, a little bit of stretching or self-massaging. Just enjoy the peacefulness of the mind for a few seconds.
All right. Well, thank you, Bhante, for leading us in meditation. And hello, Joni, Tina, Catalina, and Grino Bino. So now Bhante will be sharing some words of Dharma on the subject of emptiness. And if you have any questions, once again, feel free to put them in the live chat and he'll answer them later. Right? Thanks.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. So, emptiness. This is a very central topic in Buddhist thought. So this is a very important topic in Buddhist thought. So the last couple of days, we've been talking about the three characteristics. So last night, Ayasoma spoke about anicca, dukkha, and anatta, particularly emphasizing how we see and experience them in daily life. The day before that, I spoke about anatta, not self, from a more theoretical standpoint. A few days ago, I'd been speaking about impermanence and giving meditation instructions on perceiving impermanence. So these are all things which are related to the topic of suññatā, the emptiness. And first off, I should point out that there is a common misunderstanding. So many people believe that emptiness is a Mahayana doctrine, and that it's not found in the Theravada texts, but this is actually not correct. So while there are a number of Mahayana sutras which go into incredible detail about emptiness, so all of the Prajnaparamita sutras, the most well-known is the shortest, which is the Heart Sutra, which is commonly chanted in Mahayana monasteries. But there's a number of longer Prajnaparamita sutras. Another one which is very famous is the Diamond Sutra, the Vajracheka Prajnaparamita Sutra, which is relatively short. It's not terribly long. You can read through the whole thing in about 20 minutes. So it's pretty short. It's about on the same length as the longer sutras from the Pali Canon, so not very long. Then you have the Prajnaparamita of 8,000 lines. So the Asta Sahasraka Prajnaparamita Sutta. So that one's quite a bit longer. That takes up a decent-sized book. And then there's the Mahaprajnaparamita Sutra, which is really, really, really long. But all of these are just talking about emptiness from different angles and different perspectives and really fleshing it out in detail. In the Pali Suttas, the Buddha also talks about emptiness, but usually he speaks about it very briefly. He doesn't go into great detail. And this is one of the general characteristics of the Pali Suttas. In the Pali Suttas, the Buddha rarely goes into deep detail on philosophical or doctrinal topics. What the Pali Suttas tend to emphasize is developing a framework of understanding, which we then flesh out through practice. We then flesh out through meditation experiences, which we flesh out through contemplating and reflecting on those ideas, which we flesh out through recognizing them in our daily life, through living them in every moment. So the Pali Suttas then, they're not really concerned so much with trying to explain the nature of emptiness. but rather with giving us the tools through which we can come to a deep understanding of emptiness on our own. And this is because, from a Buddhist standpoint, the underlying nature of reality is exactly the same for everyone. So if we just look objectively at our experience, every one of us will come to exactly the same conclusions. So this is one of the reasons why people often like to analogize Buddhist practice with scientific method, because there's a similar underlying principle to scientific method, this belief that there's a basic underlying reality, and that any person who objectively examines their experience will come to the same conclusions. So the main difference is that Buddhism is focused on examining the nature of mind. We're not so interested in the physical world, except to the extent that it reflects our mind, except to the extent that it makes it gives us a surface through which to examine our own mind and come to a deeper understanding of the nature of consciousness, the nature of conscious experience. But there's a similar idea of carefully, objectively examining our experience. And also a similar method of taking on hypotheses and examining them and seeing if they're true or not. And if something is true, then we can take it on as something which is worth living in accordance with. If something seems promising, but we're not sure, then we might take it on as a working hypothesis, something that we're going to act as though it's true for the time being and see what happens. Or if something turns out to be a little bit iffy or not so accurate, then we modify it and try again, or possibly we reject it entirely and we look for something else, another framework, another approach, or another idea. So then the Buddha's teachings can be seen as a set of hypotheses which we are encouraged to try out for ourselves, which we encourage to try out as bases for experimentation, bases for investigation, bases for living. So living as taking these principles as working hypotheses and seeing what happens when we live our lives as though they were true. Seeing what happens when we view them as though they were true. So coming then to the subject of emptiness. So again, this is something which is spoken about in a number of places in the Pali Suttas, as well as quite extensively in several Mahayana sutras. And in the Pali Suttas, the Buddha sometimes refers to emptiness using the word suññatā, or the word suññā, which just means empty. So suññā, empty, suññatā, emptiness. Sometimes he uses those words. In fact, in many places he uses those words. But there's also a number of suttas where the Buddha doesn't directly use the word suññā or suññatā, but he's talking about the same concept. So an example of this is the Penapindupama Sutta, the simile on the lump of foam, which I believe is scheduled for me to talk about at some point in the next few days. So that's a discourse where the Buddha never uses the word suññatā, but that's what he's talking about. He's talking about the inherently empty nature of phenomena, the inherently empty nature of body and mind, in particular, the components of body and mind. And perhaps the flagship sutta on emptiness in the Pali Canon is another one which doesn't use the word suññatā, which is the Kaccanagotta Sutta, which is also a sutta I'll be talking about in a few days. The Kaccanagotta Sutta, although the Buddha never uses the word suññatā, he's talking about it in a very direct way, in a very undeniable way, a way which would be instantly familiar to anyone who's read the Mahayana sutras about emptiness. And the Kaccanagotta Sutta also provides one of the most direct frameworks for understanding what emptiness is talking about. And so briefly speaking, in the Kaccanagotta Sutta, the Buddha states that phenomena cannot be described as either existing or as not existing. That's what we mean by emptiness. So if I was wearing my Zen robes today, that would be the end of the talk. And then we would sit in meditation for a while. And then someone would come and hit you with a stick. And you might attain awakening. But I'm not wearing my Zen robes today. I'm wearing my Theravada robes, as I usually do. So that means I have to talk a little bit more, which is kind of a bummer because we just did this hour-long chanting session and my throat's a bit sore. But nonetheless, it's my duty to talk Dhamma, and I'm quite happy to talk Dhamma. So I'm going to continue talking about this topic in a bit more detail. That said, if you had a spontaneous breakthrough to the truth of absolute reality from that brief statement, congratulations. Please write it in the comments on the live chat. And maybe next time we can patch you in and have you give the Dhamma talks. That would be great. If not, oh well, maybe next time. I'm still working on it myself. So, no phenomena can be described as either existing or as non-existing. Is there a funny comment?
Yes, Adriana said, I volunteer to be hit first.
Some people, it does have this remarkable effect of triggering a sudden awakening, a sudden realization. So the practice of hitting people with sticks in Zen monasteries, it's not an act of cruelty or vindictiveness. It's not a punishment. They do it because every now and then it works. Every now and then, when the stick hits your body, your mind opens up quickly and suddenly. And you have a sudden glimpse of a deeper level of insight than you had before. Sometimes it happens. So they do that for good reason. In fact, there's a Zen monastery upstate which has a picture of someone getting hit with a stick in the meditation hall. And the caption for the photo says, "An act of great kindness."
That's great.
Anyway, so emptiness. I'm supposed to be talking about emptiness. Yeah, so no phenomena can be described as either existing or not existing. So why does the Buddha say that? Well, one way to look at this is that any object appears to exist under certain conditions and does not appear to exist under other conditions. Did that make things clearer or murkier? Okay, so to explain what's meant by that. So right now, you're having an experience. You have the conditions under which this current experience manifests. But you wait a few moments, and the conditions have changed, so you're having a different experience. So, in this moment, you cannot say that the experience that you had a few moments ago exists. It seemed like it existed at the time, but that time is gone. So now it seems like it does not exist. So a moment ago, it seemed like it existed. Now it seems like it doesn't exist. So which is it? The experience you had a moment ago, does it exist or does it not exist? Well, from one perspective, it seems like it does. From another perspective, it seems like it doesn't. So is it real or is it not? Or when you're sitting in meditation, a thought flashes across your mind. So for a moment, it seems like that thought is real. It seems like it exists. And a moment later, it's gone. It seems like it doesn't exist. So is the thought real or is it not? Does it exist or does it not exist? That depends upon your perspective. It depends upon your conditions. It depends upon the angle from which you look at it. Another common example, so emphasizing the subject of angles that we look at things. If you have a bowl, this is actually a bell, but it's bowl-like enough. Well, if you look at it from one angle, it seems to be concave. So I look at it and I see something that's concave. But from your angle, you look at it and it seems convex. Now you flip it around. Now to me, it seems convex, and to you, it seems concave. But actually, the bowl is, depending on how you look at it, it's either both concave and convex, or you could more accurately say it's neither concave nor convex. Or more precisely, you could say that from one perspective, it seems to be concave. From another perspective, it seems to be convex. But the actual reality cannot be defined in those terms. The actual reality is just a bell. A bell is not concave or convex, it's just a bell. So in the same way, when we look at some phenomenon from a certain perspective, it seems to exist. When we look at it from another perspective, it seems to not exist. So is its true nature existence, or is its true nature non-existence? Well, from one angle, you can say it's both real and not real, both exists and doesn't. From another angle, you can say it neither exists nor does not exist. But both of those perspectives also are a little bit flawed. In actuality, what the Buddha says is, and he says this elsewhere in another sutta where he's talking specifically about enlightened beings after death. But he's talking once again in that case about emptiness. What the Buddha says is it cannot be defined in terms of existence and non-existence. The concepts of existence and non-existence don't apply. So then, continuing with the Kachanagota Sutta, what the Buddha then says is that without going to either the viewpoint that things exist or the viewpoint that they don't exist, a Buddha simply teaches dependent origination. They teach conditional appearance. Conditional appearance. In other words, things appear to exist when the conditions are right for them to appear. So in the Painapindupama Sutta, the simile of the lump of foam, one of the examples he gives is a mirage. So a mirage is an optical illusion that appears when the conditions are right. So when you're looking in a particular direction and the sun or another light source is reflecting in a particular way, then a mirage appears, an illusion. And we take it for real because it looks real, it appears real. But it only appears real because the conditions are right for it to appear. And when those conditions change, the mirage disappears. So fundamentally, can you say the mirage is real or not real? Well, you can't really say it's either one. What we can say is that when the conditions are right, a mirage appears to exist. And when the conditions change, the mirage does not appear to exist. That's what we can say. So then what this applies to our practice, how this applies to our everyday life, is that we recognize that since all phenomena are inherently insubstantial, which is another way of saying they're empty, they don't themselves have any absolute or eternal reality, and yet nonetheless they do appear to have conditional reality under certain conditions. So it's not that there's nothing there, but rather that what is there is insubstantial. It's conditional. It appears only under certain conditions, and its appearance is incredibly fleeting, faster than a finger snap. And actually, one of the long-standing debates is whether anything really exists for any length of time at all. And what appears to be the case from the suttas is that nothing actually exists for any length of time. That there is no length of time for which things exist. That things vanish the same instant that they appear. Things appear and vanish simultaneously. So there is no ongoing existence to anything. So the relevance that has to our practice is, since all things are empty of inherent existence, so this means that things don't exist by themselves. They rather appear to exist based on their relationship to other things. This is another very important point. This is what Paticcasamuppada is talking about, saying that things appear based upon other things. Nothing appears on its own. It appears based on its relationship to other things. This is also where the concept of interdependence or interconnectedness comes from. So no phenomenon in the entire universe exists of its own accord. All phenomena exist in terms of their relationship to other phenomena, and all phenomena are defined in terms of their relationship to other phenomena. It's a bit like a dictionary. A dictionary is a remarkably frustrating thing because every word is defined by using other words in the dictionary. So no word has any meaning by itself. Words only have meaning in terms of their relationship to other words. So it's the same with all phenomena. Any phenomenon only has meaning in terms of its relationship to other phenomena. It only has apparent existence based upon its relationship to other phenomena. And every single thing without exception is subject to change. In fact, every single thing without exception is changing. So the fundamental nature of reality then is it's kind of like clay. It can be shaped into anything. It can take any shape, any form. So you give a sculptor, an artist, you give them a lump of clay. Well, they might make a frog, or they might make a tree, or they might make a sword, or they might make a pencil, or they might make a Buddha, or they might make anything. Because you can shape it into any kind of physical object you want to shape it into. But fundamentally, the clay is not any of those shapes. It's just a formless block of clay. But then you could also say that lump of clay then is all of those shapes, because it has the potential to manifest as any of those shapes. And when the conditions are right, that lump of clay will appear to be any of those shapes. So what is the lump of clay? Is the lump of clay a frog? Well, yes and no. Under certain conditions, yes, certainly seems to be that way. But under other conditions, no, it doesn't seem to be that way at all. So this also is pointing to the nature of reality, the nature of emptiness. So one way of looking at emptiness is that it represents infinite potential. That the basic substance of reality is infinite potential, the potential to manifest as anything. And also the potential to manifest as the absence of things. So this is another important point when we talk about emptiness. Emptiness is not bound by any particular form, but it's also not bound by the absence of things. So emptiness is not nothingness. There's a lovely saying in Zen, everything is empty, and that emptiness is completely full. So it's this sense of boundless, limitless, infinite potential to appear as anything. And whichever way you look at reality, you will see something manifesting. But fundamentally, that's just emptiness taking a particular form, or rather appearing to have a particular form. Another great example is with light and a prism. So light itself has no color. But you pass light through a prism, and the light splinters into an infinite rainbow of countless different colors. So you can also say that light contains an infinite range of colors. Which statement is true? Is light colorless? Or does it have an infinite range of colors? Well, both statements are actually true from one perspective, from one set of conditions, from one angle. Both statements are true, which also means that both statements are false. You cannot say that light has no color because it has infinite colors. And you can't say that it has infinite colors because it has no color. It's colorless by definition. Rather, what we can say is under certain conditions, the light will appear colorless. In other conditions, it will appear to have many colors. So this also is a way of starting to approach the nature of emptiness. So right now, one part of emptiness is manifesting as a smartphone pointing at my head. Another part of emptiness is manifesting as a female monk sitting in front of me. Another part of emptiness is manifesting as a clock, which tells me I've been talking too much. Another part of emptiness is manifesting as a mural depicting samsara. But these were all just temporary manifestations. In a few minutes, the camera will be gone, the monk will be gone, the clock may or may not still be there because this monk will also be gone. So the experience will change dramatically one way or the other. So the one way of looking at it is that reality itself, which is boundless, infinite potential, which is unshaped, raw emptiness, reality itself does not change, but the perspectives through which we view that unchanging reality do change, which means our experiences shift and change. And all of those experiences are ultimately based upon the perspective of an observer. Which means the appearance of all these different objects and things and events and so on is dependent upon self-centeredness. I see a camera because I'm looking through these eyes. I am looking through these eyes at that camera. Me looking at that. So fundamentally, in emptiness, there is no me. Because me is just a particular way of shaping realities, shaping objects, shaping phenomena. It's a particular way of shaping emptiness into a particular configuration of one being looking at another being, or one being looking at an object. But fundamentally, that's not the way of things. That's not reality. Reality has no shape, it has no form, it has no beings, it has no sight, it has no sound, it has no objects. And yet, it has every imaginable being, every imaginable sight, every imaginable sound, every imaginable object. All of that has the potential to appear when the conditions are right. So taking on these perspectives, then, the mind naturally leads towards letting go. Because we recognize that whatever object we're attached to is not quite real. It's insubstantial. It's empty of inherent existence. So if we try to hold on to it, well, we're going to suffer because there's nothing there that we can hold on to. Whatever perspective we have on our sense of self, we also recognize is absurd because our sense of self is also empty. It has no substance of its own. It has no lasting reality of its own. It has no inherent existence. It's just a little fragment of crystallized potential, which from one angle seems to be real, but from another angle can clearly be seen to not be real. From another angle, it just melts back into the infinite boundlessness of emptiness. It's just seen to be another tiny piece of the infinite matrix of possible realities, possible experiences. So then we also start to drop our clinging to a sense of self. We start to let go of our rigid self-identity. We stop taking our rigid self-identity seriously. So we have this identity of, oh, I am so many meters tall, and I am this gender, and I have this career, and I like this kind of clothing, and that kind of music, and this kind of food, and this is me. But then it's like, no, every single one of those components is empty of inherent existence. It is a conditional manifestation. Those phenomena, those details and aspects of who we think we are only appear under certain conditions. Therefore, that can't possibly be who we are. This whole concept of self, this whole perspective of self-identity melts into utter nothingness when we look at it this way. But we also acknowledge that there is this experience. This experience is happening because it's one of the infinite possible apparent manifestations that occur within emptiness. So it's here, but it's insubstantial. So we don't take it seriously, which means we're not caught by it. We're not trapped by it. So one comes to this naturally through developing the perspectives, the recognition of impermanence and not self. Naturally, you will come to a full understanding of emptiness. And this is probably why in the Pali Suttas, the Buddha didn't bother to go into deep explanations on emptiness, because he saw he didn't need to. If he just laid out the framework, then people would figure it out on their own. Practice the recognition of impermanence, know that nothing is your true self, and inevitably you will reach exactly the same realization of emptiness. Inevitably. It will finally start to click into place. So in the Chan tradition, they put this very simply. If you want to perceive emptiness, there's a very simple practice. Let go of all forms. So in Chinese, that's fang sha zhu xiang. Let go of all forms. Let go of all appearances. Let go of all manifestations. Drop them immediately. This is also the fundamental meditation instruction for one of the meditation practices, which we can do, which is called silent illumination, or shikantaza, or called it some other less wieldy names. Middle way reality meditation, which I don't like at all. It's very clunky and awkward. Silent illumination is great. Just sitting is okay, but it has the danger of implying inactivity. But fundamentally, the practice is just this one simple practice. Let go of all appearances. Let go of all manifestations. Let go of all forms. So don't try to hold on to anything which is appearing as being substantial or real or persistent. Just let it melt away. The moment it appears, let it melt, let it dissolve. And in this way, naturally, the mind starts to recognize this pervasive openness, which underlies, pervades all things. This is what we mean by emptiness. You can feel it in each moment. And emptiness is a deceptive term because emptiness sounds a little bit cold. But the actual experience of emptiness it's more like a soothing warmth. And emptiness can sound depressing, but the actual experience of emptiness is joy. The actual experience of emptiness is safety. Like when you've been having a terrible nightmare and you start waking up from it, and you start realizing that the nightmare is not quite real, then the sense of safety comes over your mind. It's like, oh, there's actually nothing wrong. Oh, how lovely. That's what it's like when we practice the perception of impermanence, the practice of emptiness. It's realizing, oh, we're wrapped in the warm embrace of boundless, limitless, unshaped potential. We're completely immersed in the safety, the security, the harmless free fall of formlessness. So I think I said way too much. So I've been talking for emptiness now about 33 minutes, which is about 32 minutes longer than I should have talking about it. So we'll go ahead and go to questions if there's any questions. Do we have any questions?
Thank you, Bhante. Yes, we do. So, hello, Marielle. She also joined us. So Sally says, may I ask where I can find the previous talks about anatta, etc.? Does anyone have the links that can share? Actually, if you go to the channel, the Buddhist Insights YouTube channel, you can find it in the history of the live streamed events. And also, there was up at the top, there was a link to our Buddhist Insights live calendar that was made by our friend Dave. He kindly put that together so you can actually find the direct links if you're looking for a particular date. So the day before yesterday or yesterday evening. And also, of course, the upcoming events as well. But if you click on the channel, you can find all of that, all of those videos. And Reed says, off topic, but are there any suttas we would benefit from reading prior to tomorrow Sunday's retreat?
I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. We will be studying the 6 elements, so there's quite a bit material, but I'm sure Bhante will present it throughout the weekend, so don't worry about it. Beginner's mind is always good. And Julia asks, Bhante, how to practice emptiness in our daily activities?
Well, as I mentioned the other day, first you have to practice it in meditation. You have to come to a deep understanding of emptiness. And by understanding, I don't mean just an intellectual idea. I mean feeling it. It's like feeling the suññatā that underlies every moment and every object and every perception. Feeling the suññatā that pervades our experience. So once you feel that in deep meditation practice, then you can start to recognize it when you're not meditating as well. So it's kind of like a switch in your mind. You just kind of flip on the perception of emptiness switch and it's there. You're just like, oh, it was right here. How could I have ever not seen this? It's been right in front of my nose this entire time. It's been right here this whole time. How could I have not seen it? But first you need to train the mind to be aware of it, to be aware of emptiness. And outside of meditation practice, that's very hard to do. So start with doing it in meditation, and then outside of meditation, you'll realize the switch is there. You just have to direct your mind towards awareness of emptiness, and you'll be aware of it. Okay, next question.
So Scott and Reed are both appreciating the bull example. Bull's a nice example that will be easy to remember. That's great. And Reed says, so if I'm getting this, what we experience has no inherent essence, partially because it changes depending on who's observing it, and partially because nothing exists of its own accord alone. Is that sort of it?
Yeah, that's a great way to start to get what we're talking about with emptiness. Yeah.
And Ryan asks, how can you have the meditative experience of emptiness? But he said, well, that answered my question later on. So I think you answered it already. Melinda says, oh, wow, I'm understanding, Bhante.
Yay.
Great. And Yudi, one of the 3 Yudis that we normally have. So Yudi Tsai.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Says, what's a meditation technique to meditate on emptiness, particularly to let go of the self-centered me, mine, and I?
Well, I think I spoke about that sufficiently already. So the direct way is, as I said before, let go of all forms. Fangsha, Juxiang, let go of all forms, release all forms. But if that's too difficult to direct, then you can practice first the recognition of impermanence. And as you practice the perception of impermanence, then once that gets to a certain stage, then you can switch to the recognition of emptiness without as much difficulty. So that actually was what made the biggest difference for me, was practicing the recognition of impermanence for a few years. Then emptiness started to make a lot more sense. And it started to be accessible in my meditation practice. So if you're having a hard time with experiencing suññatā, start with anicca saññā, the recognition of impermanence. Practice that for a few years. And then turn your mind towards suññatā again and see if it clicks. Okay?
And Melvin says, is emptiness itself also empty because it depends on an object to be negated and a mind to experience that object and its negation, while each of these parts and conditions are also empty?
Too many words. Just drop all forms. Everything is emptiness, including emptiness. Okay. And
Yulia says, that was a very strong talk. Just like C++ programming language that you code as a manifestation based on conditions. Smiley face.
Okay, I actually did study C++ for a brief time when I was a teenager, so I can get what you're saying.
I have no idea, but it's okay. No need to take this life too serious.
Yes, don't take your life seriously. But at the same time, you have to like eat and be nice to people and stuff. So you have to take it seriously while not taking it seriously. So don't take it seriously means maintain equanimity at all times and try to let go of your attachment to self-identity. But don't take it, but take it seriously in the sense that recognize that your choices have consequences, which means every choice you make is important. And you have to be very careful what you do and what effect it's having on yourself and others.
Melinda says, form is emptiness and emptiness is form.
Yeah. Yeah, the Heart Sutra is not just a bunch of pretty words. It's actually incredibly powerful meditation instructions.
Yudi says, deep talk, love it. Ryan says, so is it better to cultivate a jhana and vipassana practice or a shikantaza practice? Is it important to prioritize one or the other? Do they work together?
So it's up to you. It depends on what works for you. So I started by practicing shikantaza for many years. And then I switched to doing a more Theravada-based samadhi and vipassana practice for many years. And then these days I do both, depending on what seems right to me. So in my case, actually, most of the time I practice more of a samadhi and vipassana approach, except during long retreats. During long retreats, after a certain point, silent illumination, shikantaza, this is the only thing that makes sense to me. Because holding on to any kind of form, even that of a samadhi or vipassana meditation technique, just seems too coarse. It seems too clumsy. It seems too awkward. It's like trying to do brain surgery with a sledgehammer. It just doesn't seem like the right tool. But for an ordinary, everyday, coarse mind, these techniques are wonderfully powerful. Samadhi and vipassana techniques, wonderfully powerful for an ordinary mind. And for an ordinary mind, the practice of silent illumination, so that's mo, jiao, silent illumination, it's too subtle. It just doesn't get a foothold in the ordinary everyday mind until it's very well developed. So I would say feel free to switch between them and see what works. But I will also say that silent illumination practice, if the mind is not well prepared, you usually just wind up wasting a lot of time. So a lot of people are practicing shikantaza when they're really not ready for it. It's a very subtle, difficult, and advanced method. It's not beginner friendly at all. So ask yourself seriously, is this the method that's best for you at this time or not? In terms of Theravada terms, by the way, we would call silent illumination or shikantaza practice, we would call it simultaneous samadhi and vipassana. So in the Yogananda Sutta, this is the third strategy the Buddha speaks about, simultaneous samadhi and vipassana. So that's the Shikantaza practice. In Theravada terms, we also would call it anamitta samadhi. So samadhi with no object of attention, samadhi with no meditation object. Just to put that in context. Okay, next question.
Yes, and I'll just add that some Thai forest monks call it choiceless awareness. So if you hear like Ajahn Jayanto from Temple Forest Monastery, that is his main meditation practice. So he will have no idea what Shikantaza is or silent illumination is, but he practices that. He just calls it choiceless awareness. Just fun fact. And Adriana says, 3 empty sadhus. Thank you, Bhante. I love the empty sadhu. I might steal that. And Melvin says, during this time of upheaval, it's been difficult to keep my mind on one thing. Oh, I think because of the too many words comment. Julia says, is there a specific technique to meditate on emptiness? Thank you.
I think I've spoken about that sufficiently.
Yeah.
And just a word of commiseration for Melvin. Yeah, it's true. During times of upheaval and difficulty, the mind tends to be more unstable and more prone towards chaos and internal disturbance. So this is why our spiritual practice is especially important under these times. I mean, it's always important, but especially during times of chaos and uncertainty, we really, really, really need to work on keeping a steady mind, a stable mind. And actually, this can be a real wake-up call because we realize that the only true, reliable stability is found in training our mind. You can't find it in the outside world. Okay.
Suzanne is also online. Hi, Suzanne. Good to see you. And she says, I like the analogy to waking up from a nightmare.
Yeah.
And Reed says, I feel like this concept is really holding hands with the 3 characteristics. I'm wondering why it isn't either a 4th characteristic or included in not self.
Yeah, so that's a good question. And commonly in the Mahayana schools, they talk about the 3 Dharma seals, the 3 marks of the Dharma. And there, the list they use is anicca, anatta, suññatā. So impermanence, not self, and emptiness. But I mean, again, fundamentally, these things all flow together. They're just different ways of talking about the same thing. So as I see it, if you talk about impermanence and not self, then you're automatically implying emptiness. So it's not necessary to mention it as another object, as another characteristic. But sometimes it's helpful to specify it clearly, which is why sometimes we do specify it clearly.
Great. Thank you, Bhante. And Kevin, who is our the voice of our conscience, is encouraging everyone to practice dana. So he says, good evening, fellow practitioners. Please visit the Buddhist Insights website to practice dana and support the monastery. If you want to do that, you can go to buddhistinsights.com/donate.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, sadhu. And Sally says, I have a question. The intention I want to do something, I felt strong I behind. How can I understand this is conditioned too?
Look at the intention itself. So let go of I want to do this and just look at wanting to do this. And you'll see that the wanting appeared because of particular conditions. And you'll see that the wanting disappears when those conditions changed. And you'll see that you are not the wanting and you are not the conditions, but rather these are simply things that appear when the conditions are right. Then that sense of me and I will start to melt away. Okay?
Thank you. Bobby says, yes, I think Ajahn Yanamani teaches the same. And Mehmet says, thank you very much. It was an amazing explanation. Why do you think there is so much emphasis on emptiness in Mahayana and Tibetan traditions? And why do they see Theravadan as a dualistic, wrong view?
So I could only speculate as to why there's so much emphasis on emptiness in the Mahayana schools. I could only speculate once again. I would suspect historical reasons, but I'm not one to go too deeply into that. Similarly, the tendency to regard Theravada as dualistic is because of a long-standing mix-up. Because keep in mind that until fairly recent times, there's actually been very little communication between the different schools of Buddhism. So what is present in the traditions of Mahayana and Vajrayana is this idea of Hinayana, which is people who practice in a self-centered way and who believe that objects are absolutely permanently existing. And scholars who are far more studied in these things than I am have come to the conclusion that this was based upon the beliefs of a particular sect of Buddhism that existed in ancient India, but died out centuries ago. So it's not synonymous with modern day Theravada, and it's not actually synonymous with the content of the Pali Canon, and it's not reflective of the teachings preserved in the Theravada tradition. But rather, the concept of Hinayana is referring, so in terms of the belief in a dualistic reality composed of genuinely real objects, that's based upon a school of Buddhism which died out hundreds of years ago and which is not directly related to the Theravada tradition. And the other aspect of the Hinayana thing, this idea of self-centeredness, again, that's based upon the fact that, let's be honest, there's a lot of really self-centered people in the world, including in the Buddhist world. And it's not exclusively the domain of Theravadins. So people of any Buddhist tradition have a tendency to get caught in self-centeredness if we're not careful. So that's the other thing that the anti-Hinayana polemic is really trying to work against, is this tendency of people to get caught in a very self-centered approach to spiritual practice. Which is, from a Buddhist standpoint, it's ridiculous because we're trying to let go of self-centeredness. That's what the teaching on anatta is all about. It's all about letting go of self-centeredness. So that's answering a little bit more than just what you asked. So long story short, I'm not enough of a historian to understand exactly why the teachings on suññatā gained such prominence in Mahayana. Except to know that they did. And I think that's wonderful. I think it's beautiful. It's really, really useful. And also to say that this understanding of viewing Theravada as dualistic and caught in a perception of real objects is arising from just centuries and centuries of non-communication between the different schools of Buddhism. And a documented reaction to the wrong views of a long since extinct sect of Buddhism. So that's my understanding.
Thank you, Bhante. And Bobby is quoting a sutta, a part of a sutta, saying, when a monk has emerged from the cessation of perception and feeling, friend Visakha, three contacts make contact. Contact with emptiness, contact with the signless, and contact with the undirected. Can you explain what the signless and undirected is in relation to emptiness?
Yeah, so signless is anamitta, which I translate as objectless. So that's when the mind is not fixating on the perception of any particular object. It's not fixating on any particular thing. And undirected in Pali is apanahita, which is when the mind is not pointed towards any kind of activity, not pointed in any particular direction or any particular way. So animitta samadhi and apanihita samadhi are both ways of talking about the perception of emptiness. They're both ways of talking about silent illumination practice, shikantaza practice, this way of directly seeing emptiness by letting go of all objects and activities. So then naturally that leads to one having contact with emptiness. Yep. So those all go together. That set of three all fit together.
All right, thank you. And that was the last question, unless another one pops up last minute. Everybody seems quite happy with your your Dhamma read saying thank you for the answers. That really clarified things for me. And also Mehmet is appreciative, and Kevin as well. All right, so maybe we can end it here for tonight. Thank you all for joining us as usual. It's always so great to come together to discuss Dharma in these crazy times. Suzanne says, Dhamma in pajamas.
You can wear your pajamas when you come to the monastery too. I mean, I wear pajamas all the time. It's great.
Yes. Yeah. Day pajama, night pajama. We're constantly in pajama. You can ordain too, so you have a 24/7 pajama. So this weekend, we will be doing a weekend meditation retreat. So there will be some extra sessions during the day. We will be meeting as usual at 8 a.m. and at 7:30 p.m. in the evening. But then we also will have 2 more sessions throughout the day. One at 1:30 p.m. and the other one at 6 p.m. where we're going to do a little bit of chanting. We're going to be chanting the Ratana Sutta to end the pandemic. Actually, today we did a lot of chanting, 1 hour chanting together with other monastics throughout the world. That's still going on our other friends' YouTube channel called Dhammanet. So you should check that out. I think we'll post the link on the Facebook page so you can check that out. But getting back to this weekend, we will be studying the 6 elements with Bhante. So it will be intensive vipassana, but also fun and great. So hopefully you'll tune in. If you can't attend the entire sessions, just join in for whatever you can. And starting Monday, we'll have our regular schedule of 8 a.m. Sutta study and 7:30 p.m. meditation and Dharma talk and Dharma discussion. If you have any feedback or any questions, feel free to send us an email at this address. And if you can't find where the events are, I believe that Dave sent a message to to the people who signed up at on Eventbrite, I believe. So he sent the schedule for tomorrow. If not, if you haven't received it, or you can't find the calendar, or you can't find anything, just send an email at info@buddhistinsights.com and someone will send you an email. All right. Sally is asking, the weekend retreat is in the channel too? Yes, everything is uploaded. And if you subscribe, actually you should all subscribe to the channel. So then we can reach the number of people that YouTube is asking us to reach in order to get a little bit more technological here. And also watch as much Dharma as you can so we can also reach that limit as well. And Serena Wong just appeared. Hello, Serena. Good to see you. She says sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right. Okay, great. Sally, do we need registration? No, you just need to open up the YouTube and that's good. Yes, and Yudi says, please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. And Reed says, Bhante Jayazaras of Bhavana Discord channel Students of the Path will have a lot of friends joining this weekend. Oh, how wonderful. Great. That's so awesome. All right. Okay. Hope to see you all this weekend. And It's great. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Have a great, as we like to end always, the evenings at Buddhist Insights. All right, see you soon.